Hi, you guys. Oh my God, it's my first live. Okay, I'm just getting on here a little bit early because I want to make sure that I'm here in time for Dr. Heather Hirsch. And yeah, see if anybody's going to be here. This is so exciting. Hey, hi. Oh my God, you guys, happy Valentine's Day. Oh my gosh. Okay, I can't see anything. Readers, what are we saying? Oh my gosh, you guys. So many of you guys. So when? Hello. All right, so I have to, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, I have to allow Dr. Heather Hirsch into the chat when she comes here. So I've never done this before, so I'm a little bit nervous. And I think I can save this video, you guys, so I can put it up on YouTube, because I think we have a whole half an hour to talk to Dr. Heather, and she's not here yet. So what are we talking about today, you guys? We are talking menopause. Right now, I'm sweating, and I'm probably going to go into a hot flash, and I didn't even bring a fan with me, so yeah, I don't know. Oh, wait, people are talking, waving. Hi! Oh my God. You guys, like, why have I never done a live before? Hi, you guys. How are you? How is everybody doing? Okay, so what I need you to do is, wait, she's not here yet. When not being able to see, this is really difficult. Heather, when you get there, let me know. What did I want to ask you guys? Do you have questions? Get your questions for Dr. Heather Hirsch now. You're going to be able to type them below, and let's go ahead and ask her some questions. You are so stinking cute. Oh my God, thank you. Hello, I am stinking right now because I'm wearing my natural deodorant. Okay, more people. Hi. Oh my gosh, so many people are here. Are you kidding me? Hi. Hello from San Francisco. Hey, you guys, where are y'all from? Where are you all joining me from? Go ahead and put it below. Let me see if I can even read this. Hello. Hi. Yeah, okay. So let's, she's not here yet once she gets here. But you guys, seriously, like, oh wait, there she is. I think she just joined. I see a message from her, but I don't, let's see here. You guys, I'm not really sure how to get her to join. Heather, oh, there she is. She joined. Now, Dr. Heather Hirsch, you have to ask to join the chat, and then I can accept you. There she goes. Yes. Screen is going to be split once she joins. Waiting for Dr. Heather Hirsch. Hi! Oh my God. I am so excited to see you.
I'm so excited that this is your first live, and I'm with you.
I'm freaking out. I'm so nervous. There's lots of people here. So hi to everybody. This is Dr. Heather Hirsch. So happy to meet you and for you to come and talk to all the followers, because we are suffering.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm so excited to be here. I'd love to kind of answer some of your questions. If my dog barks too loud in the background, I will boot her outside because she likes to patrol the house. But yes, okay. The reason I dedicated my career to menopause and midlife is because during my training, I saw that there was essentially no other greater need. Women were really suffering, and from a plethora of things, lack of information, incorrect information, or just being misunderstood and being totally confused. So it's really important to me.
Yes. So first of all, I just wanted to talk about how this subject is completely taboo, right? So no one talks about it. My mom told me nothing. And even in my 40s, nobody was talking about it. And I still don't understand why women don't talk about it. But I guess it's like they're embarrassed, or it might mean the end of something, youth, sex, beauty, right?
Right. Yeah. I have a couple of my own theories, and they're just that, theories. But, I think when we think about women and our reproductive life, there's so much guilt and fear around everything. And we think about some of the obvious things: contraception, pregnancy, ending pregnancy, that it translates so much to the end of our reproductive lives that in fact, it just almost disappears. And, you know, I think as society, you're right, there's something about that women's health is socially charged. You know, despite science being science, there's still a socialness, there's still some social sciences behind women's health that is not escaped by, you know, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. And again, so much so that it just becomes invisible. Like, it's harming women because of the fact that we don't talk about it, that it's invisible, whether it's embarrassing or it's shameful or it's lack of youth or lack of sex or all these myths. In fact, you can have plenty of sex postmenopausally, but, you know, it perpetuates that social norm that there's something shameful or just, you know, sad about being menopausal, which is not true.
No, and that's why I try to talk about it a lot on my channel. And I try to talk about it as much as I can with all of my friends. And even at work, I would like to talk to my boss about it, because sometimes in a meeting, in a hot flash, it's really difficult. It can be really difficult. So I wish we were able to, well, that's a whole nother story, but maybe one day.
You make a great point, right? If a woman has to pump, your boss will be like, you know what? I see that you got to run. I'm just not going to ask, right? So that's an instance where, you know, something that happened to us reproductively that we need to do is kind of say, okay, you can do that. But if you're sweating down your shirt, then no one's going to say, oh, let me excuse you from a meeting, right? But why not? It's
exactly. And especially when you're nervous, it kind of induces a hot flash, I feel. And so that would be the time when you're making a presentation in front of your boss or a group, and then you go right into a hot flash. Or just like no sleep, which is something I would really, really like to talk to you about. But the first question, if I can ask you my first question, which is the question that I get this DM'd constantly. And I kind of just want to jump right into this one. What is the difference between hormone replacement therapy and bioidentical, and what's better and what are they? And I get the same question over and over again.
Great question. All right, let me try and break this down. So bioidentical, that word is actually a slang term. So it really doesn't mean anything scientifically. It just means, what it actually means is the estrogen being used is a more natural type of estrogen called estradiol.
Okay.
So bioidentical means estradiol. Now, you can get estradiol that's in an FDA-approved product, which is what I recommend always for my patients, or you can get estradiol that's compounded from a compounding pharmacy. So the term bioidentical really kind of separates into, is it FDA-approved bioidentical estradiol, or is it a compounded, unregulated estradiol that you get from a compounding pharmacy? This one arguably is much safer, despite a lot of the media and the misconceptions about hormone therapy. Something that is regulated and FDA approved is much safer. Something that is unregulated and not FDA approved can have many important risks, including uterine cancer because of unopposed estrogen and progesterone, super therapeutic testosterone levels, which can cause permanent deepening of your voice, permanent clitoromegaly, hair loss, acne, and scarring.
Okay.
So bioidentical, so I hope that kind of helps, and that's a really important question. Bioidentical doesn't necessarily mean bad or good. It really means, is it regulated or is it unregulated?
Right. I think a lot of people think bioidentical means natural, healthy, and what you're telling me is not necessarily at all. It's just unregulated. So you're kind of like messing around with something you don't really understand.
Exactly. There's lots of bioidentical options that I prescribe that you can get at CVS or Walgreens or wherever you get your medications. Okay. And but the slang term bioidentical, like this is natural, came out of the fear of hormones that started in the early 2000s. So before you were menopausal, right? But about 15 years ago, there was a big scare about hormone therapy, and we can get into that, but out of that grew this niche of people who are saying, oh, I have this bioidentical, this unregulated, this compounded, is made just for you, it's safer. And actually that's not true, but it's preying upon a woman's insecurity and confusion around hormone therapy.
I'm so glad you're telling me this, because again, this is the most common question I get asked. Should I do HRT or bioidenticals? And I was like, well, let's ask. So that really, I think, is going to help a lot of people. So
good.
Thank you for that. Now, there's a lot of fear about taking HRT, right? So women are like, don't do it, don't do it. And can you tell me a little bit about the fear and why everybody wants to just try to go natural, while it can be really difficult and you can get really depressed if you don't get some help sometimes, trying so hard to be natural?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So it's a little bit of a long-winded tale, but in the early 2000s, when the first big study came out called the Women's Healthy Initiative, unfortunately, it ended really early, and it ended due to an inherent increased risk of breast cancer. And the study sort of ended, and the media went on a frenzy. And ever since that time, the early 2000s, we have this deep-rooted idea that estrogen is dangerous and harmful. Despite a plethora of evidence to the contrary, there's this idea that estrogen is dangerous and harmful, especially FDA options. So go take these bioidentical compounded options. They're safer. We just went over that's not true. Yeah. So the fears that I hear the most are it's going to increase my risk for or give me breast cancer. Yeah. Or it will, be bad for my heart or etc. Those are sort of the biggest fears. And then besides for that, women just say like, well, I heard it was bad. Isn't it bad? We don't even know.
Bad. Can't do it.
And that goes back to one of those first points of like, there's fear and guilt around everything that women do around their reproductive choices, whether it's the beginning of your reproductive or the end. So anyways, it is and this is why I love my job. I get to sit with my patients and talk to them about this. So it's really a individual story for each person. Depends on your medical history, depends on your risk factors. The biggest risk is absolutely not breast cancer. There's a very small, teeny tiny risk of a blood clot, which is about 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 2,000 if you use a transdermal option. Now, that's the same risk you assume when if a woman took birth control pills. And so a lot of my patients will say like, oh yeah, I took birth control pills for a long time and I never had a blood clot. Or I had surgery, or I had 2 pregnancies. During pregnancy, your risk for blood clot goes skyrockets. And so you can kind of start to get an idea of someone's risk factors if they're going to have a risk for blood clots or not. Going back to the breast, which is one of the biggest myths that I sort of debunk in my clinic, is that actually in the Women's Health Study, although they reported that there was a big risk of invasive breast cancer, it actually translated to 2 to 4 women out of 1,000 who used Prem Pro for 5 years. Now, that sounds like a mouthful, but Prem Pro was just the one oral dose that they used. Okay. Interestingly, if you're still following me, the women who took estrogen only, and you can only take just estrogen if you no longer have your uterus. So if you've had a hysterectomy, you just need estrogen, had less breast cancer than the general population. So actually, it's probably something in the progesterone. And when we use different types of progesterones, we don't see the same increased risk of breast cancer. So blah, 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 blah. It's a lot to say that, it is a long story. And that's why I went on to make a podcast and to make some online resources. Because even when my patients come to see me, they'll leave and they say, okay, I feel really good. But on the car ride home, they're like, what did she say about, all this stuff? Because it's a lot. It's a lot. But the risk of breast cancer is by far really, really, really minimal. And the quality of life that you might be risking is huge. Not sleeping, binge eating, gaining weight, having anxiety, depression, losing your job, etc. Those risks are much bigger. And so it really comes down to, it's not so much it's bad, it really just comes down to weighing what's right. there's also a lot of options that are not hormonal. So
right. So that's my next question. So I had a lot of people contact me and say, we don't want to do any hormone replacement. We're okay, but we just want to know, are there some things that I could get at Whole Foods, at Safeway, Walgreens, or just what are some things I can do to help with, well, the biggest things I hear is mood, like just irritation. I mean, me personally, it's, wow. It kind of feels like the same irritation I had when I was pregnant. Just like every little smell, sound irritates me. Like even people like their keys rattling with, you know what I mean? And then feeling very overwhelmed. Like I gotta do the dishes. Oh, it's like the biggest chore. Like I can't even, those types of things. So mood was one that I heard over and over again. And then of course, sleep over and over again. And, well, we'll talk about the third one later, but if we can start with those two, some things that we could try to do.
Yeah, yes, wonderful. So I will, talk about some things that are non-hormonal, although we do find that hormone therapy does help. So, always keep it, if you kind of ruled it out or you were too nervous about it or fearful of it, it actually really can be very safe and quite effective. But for options that are non-hormonal, you definitely want to start with what I consider like my 4 pillars of health. So sleep, exercise, diet, and mental health. And all of those sound pretty obvious, but taking a good inventory of like, are you getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep? Now, if you're waking up splashing, we'll come back to that. Are you getting at least some exercise? And it could be anything. I know you like to dance. Are you moving? Are you walking? It doesn't need to be anything crazy, but just moving around. How is your mental health? If you need a psychiatrist or a counselor, or a psychologist or a life coach, like that can really help. And just working through using cognitive behavioral therapy. And then what was my other one? Probably diet. It was diet. How is your diet? No one's diet is perfect, and there's no perfect or right diet that's going to help your mood, but it's obviously going to be the obvious, like avoiding processed foods as much as you can.
Okay, great.
Now on to some of my favorite tips and tricks for supplements that you can get at, at Whole Foods
everybody get your
GNC.
I'm writing it.
Yes. My very favorite supplements are, number 1 on the top of the list is really vitamin D, especially for mood. Vitamin D is such a great source of... Vitamin D is actually a prosteryl hormone. It's actually not considered a vitamin. So you want to get at least 1,000 to 2,000 units of vitamin D a day. I myself take 5,000 in the winter, and I live in Boston, so it's not as sunny as is San Francisco. I definitely get my vitamin D. You just don't get enough in food. So vitamin D is number 1.
That is great. I had no idea.
Absolutely. Everyone thinks about calcium and does all like these calcium chews. Actually, calcium can constipate you, which can lead to bloating. So I actually say don't take any of like the calcium chews or tabs. Like get the vitamin D and get calcium in your diet if you can. So vitamin D is number 1. And then another supplement that I take every single night is magnesium. So magnesium, either 250 to 500. It can help with a little bit of it can make people a little sleepy at nighttime. It also helps relieve constipation. So gentle relief of constipation so you don't feel bloated. Keeps our bellies nice and regular, which is really, really helpful. Sounds like an obvious thing, but to have slow gut or slow transit is really, really annoying for most people. So magnesium 250 to 500. I take 500. Some people, if it gives you diarrhea, just back down. Magnesium. For sleep, if you haven't tried melatonin, also add some melatonin. You can take melatonin with magnesium. It won't knock you out or do anything like that. Avoid things like, this is what a lot of women do to sleep, alcohol, Benadryl. And so you actually do want to avoid those. I'm not saying you should avoid alcohol in general, but if you're drinking it to kind of help you get to sleep, it's just going to kind of be a vicious cycle. So you want to avoid alcohol for sleep, but you can add a little bit of melatonin. I actually give it to my 4-year-old, and it's like changed our lives. So melatonin is also really great. For a little bit of gentle, also like natural diuresis, you can try B6. So B6, 50 milligrams. It kind of helps just that 1 or 2, like that water weight, especially that progesterone can which can rise, either that's what rises the first trimester of pregnancy, or why you may feel that progesterone. As your estrogen went down, you might be feeling more of those progesterone. So I would add in like B6. You can take it up to 3 times a day. That's a little annoying to remember 3 times a day, but B6 is one that I also really, really like. And then a nice little energy booster is an all B, or a B complex. So I really like those all B vitamins. In fact, I will usually, my little regimen is I'll take my all B in the morning, I'll take my magnesium and my vitamin D at night. If you like the B6, you can add that as well. I actually don't recommend, a lot of physicians no longer recommend a multivitamin, and that's because we think you probably just get everything you need in a regular diet. And so I would just add the vitamin D, the B, and the magnesium if it were me. Another couple of...
A lot of women, sorry to interrupt you. So I know that a lot of women just take that like women's supplement. You know, the women's supplement vitamin?
Yes.
I think people just grab that and they figure, okay, we're done. We did that. How much of that vitamin actually is helping anybody?
That's a really good question. You know, I had this like great dream one day that like I would make this company that like made like individual vitamins for people like based on what they needed. And I'll tuck that idea away for later, but you know, I don't know. The thing with multivitamins, there's probably so much in there that you kind of get into a regular diet, and that, you know, actually just buying the little individual ones that maybe are going to help you the most is, that's what I do. And that's what I usually tend to recommend. We also, you know, we're still collecting data on if multivitamins are I don't want to use the word harmful, but, we just always assumed they were good for us, and we're not really sure that's true. So I know, you know, definitely safe to take the magnesium, the D, the B vitamins, etc. And then to add to that, a lot of people will take over the counter like estrogen or DHEA. And a word of note.
What are those? Can you talk about over the counter? What's an over the counter estrogen?
Yeah, so there's something called, I think it's Estroven. I don't recommend it terribly much, but essentially what it is hold on, I'm gonna fix my chair for a second because now I'm snuggling in and telling you guys all my stories. So your body makes 3 different types of estrogen: estradiol, which is what comes in the prescription, estrone and esterol, which make up the other like 2 to 3% of our estrogen. That's usually what's in like an over-the-counter like hot flash remedy that you might see, is that estradiol, or sorry, esterone or esterol. So they're really, really, really tiny amounts of estrogen. So for some women, this does help control their symptoms for a short period of time, but typically after about a few months, it will tend to wane. And I don't think that it's harmful. So if it helps you, that's absolutely fine. But I also don't want you to waste your money if it's no longer working.
Okay, great. But it's not harmful.
No, it's not harmful.
Okay, good. Okay, so I haven't even been looking at these questions. I think people have been asking questions. So I'm going to look at those really quick. But there's one thing I did want to ask, because this is something that's been bothering me so much in menopause, and it's hair thinning and loss. My hair, it is completely different. I have to, and it is something that affects kind of my self-esteem, because when you love your hair, and I'm a hair girl, and all of a sudden my hair, and it happened really quick. It happened within, I feel like 6 months to a year. It just completely changed in the last year. Is there anything we can do to help our thinning
hair? You know what? This question I get asked all of the time. It's so common, and I want you to know that so many women, this bothers so many of us, and doesn't make someone, shallow or anything like that, because most women, in fact, they'll come to me with like their hair in their bag, and they'll say, even if it's still long, it's thinner, or the texture is different, or it's not curly as it used to be, it's not as full as it used to be, it falls out much more. And this is definitely, just like you said, really serious, because it affects our self-esteem. It affects the way we feel about ourselves. So, yes, there are definitely a couple of things. So starting again with just over-the-counter would be biotin and zinc and magnesium and iron. So I'll say them again. Biotin, biotin, zinc, magnesium, and iron. There are some like hair, skin, and nail, that you'll see like on Amazon or at GNC. And a lot of those are fine because they usually do have biotin, zinc, magnesium, iron. Those are the big ones that are really good for hair. You can also have your doctor check these levels. So, if your levels, you don't necessarily need it. You can always go ahead and take it, but if they're really, really, really low, you might have an absorption problem as well. Obviously, estrogen is really good for hair. So when we think about pregnancy or levels of when we had really high estrogen and we had tons of hair, estrogen is really good for hair. So the best type of estrogen is actually an oral estrogen or hormone replacement. It definitely can help people's hair if that is a way that you want to go. If not, so the other options are, there is a medication called, before I get to that one, there's also Rogaine foam for women. It's tedious.
Oh, okay.
You have to really stick with it at least 6 months, we recommend, before you see any changes. So you really have to stick with the Rogaine for women, but you can use it. It will work. It can help. Yep.
Okay.
There is also a medication called, so there's an anti-estrogen medication called aldactone, or it's also known as spironolactone, that needs to be prescribed by a doctor that can also help for hair, as well as the dermatology world. Dermatologists are working on lots of new different kinds of like stem cells for hair growth and hair transplantations, which are actually really cool. I think that there's actually a big need, there's a big want, there's a big demand. So there's lots of those coming down from the dermatology world as well. So those procedures I don't get to do, or I don't necessarily do. I do hormone replacement therapy. It's not FDA approved for hair growth, but let me tell you, I do it.
It works.
It works.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Let me go into another topic that I get over and over and over and over again. And actually, I heard this nickname called the menopause. I don't know if you've ever heard about that, which is midsection. What is it? Why? How come all of a sudden, out of nowhere?
Yeah, yes. So, great question. So, besides for hair, weight loss or weight gain is also a big thing that I hear that is really, really soul bothering to people. So we know that at menopause, the metabolism decreases, and some studies show even by up to 25%. That's a pretty big hit of changing your metabolism by just doing nothing, waking up one morning. That means that no matter if you're exercising and you're still eating healthy, you still have to work harder for that metabolism. Sorry, my dog's barking a little bit in the background.
Okay.
A study came out actually this week that showed that the use of hormone replacement, I know I kind of sound like a broken record, but hear me out. The use of hormone replacement actually improved people's lean muscle mass. Which means that the more muscle mass you have, the better your metabolism is. So not only does metabolism slow, but fat also tends to go, you can't see me do it, but yes, mid-central, right? It tends to like shift. Right. Some women notice their chest gets larger at menopause because the adipose tissue is really just shifting and changing.
Right.
It's interesting because I think there's several factors. So one, I think indirectly, if people are not sleeping, that kind of goes back to my 4 pillars. By the lack of sleep also affects our metabolism. So if you're waking up, if you're hot, if you're flashing, that can affect your metabolism. If you're moody or angry, you're irritable, maybe you're eating more carbs, your carb craving, that can change your metabolism.
Yeah, because you haven't slept, and so you just want to eat anything to wake you up. I mean, for me, when I haven't slept, I want chocolate. I just, wake me up. Yeah, so...
Yep, absolutely. So there's like indirect things. And then I think there's also a direct link to when we lose, as women, we lose that estrogen, it changes the way our insulin resistance works. So that's sort of that, essentially how you metabolize sugar, how you keep yourself out of that pre-diabetes or diabetes range. And so there definitely is sort of what I call like indirect reasons why that metabolism changes and direct reasons why that metabolism changes. So the reason this study was so cool that came out this last week was it really showed that hormone therapy was associated with improved lean muscle mass. So that it means there is truly, it's not just, your fault. You didn't wake up one day and all of a sudden you became unhealthier. Genetically, something happens, hormonally that changes those genes, that changes the genetics, that changes that metabolism. It just means we have to work that much harder to maintain our weight.
So maybe work out a little bit more, eat a little bit cleaner. If you're not going to go the hormone replacement therapy route, just maybe up the exercise every day a little bit.
Yep, and keep eating really healthy. A lot of it's going to be diet and portion control. I'm not a dietitian, I'm a physician, not a dietitian, so I say these guidelines loosely. But overall, I definitely recommend to a lot of my patients like a Mediterranean diet, sort of that like lean protein, good fats, olive oil, salmon, right? And nuts and chia seeds, things like that. And, I always kind of say lower carb. I never say keto or no carbs. It's just crazy and it's not sustainable. But we overestimate how many carbs we eat because they're in everything and they're delicious. Just watching carbs, I think, could be really helpful.
Yeah, that's good to know.
The other big thing, especially, I think, is the alcohol intake. So as, we maybe can't sleep or we feel more irritable when we come home from work, that alcohol is going to really tank that metabolism. So I enjoy my glass of wine too, but you just got to keep yourself in check. So I'm a huge fan of journaling. By journaling, you can really start to see, oh, darn, I really am starting to drink every night. I am starting to drink 2 to 3 drinks a night, so just kind of watching.
Yes, no, absolutely. I want to talk about sex life, and everybody keeps saying, what happens? What's going to happen? Am I going to have sex? Is it going to be painful? Or I've heard a lot about it. Can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. There is this sort of also societal myth, right, that we get older, we just kind of pee our pants, we don't have sex anymore, and and those are really not true.
Right.
The biggest thing is the changes that can happen. There's 2 big changes. The first is that the vagina has the most estrogen receptors. Oops, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm gonna walk and take my dog out while we talk.
That's okay. Go for it. I'm gonna try and look at some of these questions here because I can't. Let me see. Go for it. I'm gonna put my glasses on and see if I can read some of these.
So the lower GU tract, the vagina has the most estrogen receptors. So as you go into menopause and you lose that estrogen, you can have more pain. So that can mean it's drier. You can have less lubrication. So we talked a lot about hormone replacement therapy, and what we were really talking about, or I was really talking about, was systemic hormone therapy. But vaginal estrogen is so safe. My motto is everyone should have vaginal estrogen.
What is vaginal estrogen? What is it and how do we get it?
Yeah, so it comes in a couple different options. You do have to get a physician's prescription for it. So it's not something that you can get over the counter. But these are going to be names like Estrace, Vagifem, even Premarin vaginal cream. So they're all just vaginal estrogens that you put into the vagina a couple times a week, maybe 2-3 times a week. And it's going to keep it so that you don't have pain. Because number 2 is, as if libido does change, the purpose of the sex drive is to reproduce. Once you've already had your children or you're menopausal, your brain sort of says, well, I'm not going to seek that out like food, shelter, and water anymore. I've already done that. But most women say, I love my partner. I find him or her so sexy. I want to be. I would just kind of rather watch TV. So while libido is part 2, if there's pain, there's going to be no reason to want to engage. So you should never have pain. So vaginal estrogen is so safe. Again, it does not go systemically. So all the myths about estrogen or hormone replacement that a person has read does not apply to just vaginal estrogen, which just goes in the lower GU tract. So number 1, that's almost like it's just a win-win. Another thing is, in terms of keeping pain down or friction down, I love coconut oil, olive oil, and they're the best lubricants.
Really?
You probably all have them at home in your kitchen. Yes. It doesn't need to be extra virgin. You can use anything that you have. And it mimics the body's natural substances, and no one has any allergies to it. So it's a really, really, really good option. And then there's changing libido. So not all women, but a majority of women will notice their libido changes. And I will hear, is this normal? You know, what is normal? And really there is no normal. You know, I'll say, does it bother you? Does it bother your partner? And then I'll get a plethora of responses. Sometimes it does bother the person. They say, yes, I want to feel, my kids are gone. I want to feel like we did when we were younger.
People finally gone, right? This is our problem time.
Exactly.
And now we only have one sex, so
Exactly. Some people say, I really could care less, and my spouse could care less, and I'll say, well, it's not a problem. So every couple is really different. And so there are actually there's two main ones, but there are some medications that you can use also for libido. And the newest one, which is really, really fascinating to me, so I want you guys to listen up. It's called Vyleesi. It's it's like a pen, and you use it as needed. You have to give yourself like a little injection, like before date night. And so what's fascinating about it is you don't have to like take a medicine every single day. You can just use it just as needed, kind of like before date night.
Before date night, like so you can take it hours before?
Yes. Isn't that pretty cool?
Yeah, that's awesome. And you need a prescription for that.
You definitely need a prescription for that, yes. And then the other option that some of my women will choose is a very, very safe low dose of topical female level testosterone if libido is really bothersome to them. And that's actually also been shown to help libido is just a tiny bit of testosterone, which we also lose when we go into menopause. So there's no right or wrong answer, but you want to make sure it's not painful. I think it's important to you that you talk to your doctor and you find a good doctor.
I'm seeing like this question from Soulcatcher30, and she says holistic approaches, and I think you kind of talked about some things we could take over the counter. So I wonder if you can answer what she means answer her holistic approaches to dealing with menopause.
Yeah, so I'm a really big fan of journaling. And the reason I'm such a big fan of journaling is you might start notice over time, for example, when you're going to have more of a rough patch, or, you notice maybe this couple of months has been really particularly bad, and you can start to sort of plan around that. So, for example, I actually usually recommend there's a lot of little cute little handheld fans that you can keep, and they're nice and sleek like a book, and you can slip them in your purse. I definitely recommend keeping your house nice and cold if your spouse, partner, husband, family lets you. So really, actually, the body loves 65 degrees.
Right. Because the men get hotter and you're getting,
Yes. There is, I'm cool enough to have an Amazon store. There's some really nice cooling blankets that you can buy. You put them on your bed as sheets, and they keep you nice and cool. Because I've woken up postpartum sweating, and I get it. It's
intense. So I have like I had a small fan, but now I have like a huge, it's like a hurricane coming at you. And I only, because the hot flashes, they last about 5 minutes, right? And then they go away. So I just need to cool down, and then I turn it off. But the problem is with me that I get freezing afterwards.
Cold afterwards, yes.
Like freezing. So then I'm like, okay. And then I have to wrap everything up. And then, a couple hours later,
take your ballot off.
Fan, but I kind of have I've got it set up now. The fan goes on for a couple of minutes and on and off, enough that I'm still able to sleep okay. I've been doing really well this last week, so yes, I'm super happy.
Good. I think someone said Fenugreek. I'm sort of neutral on that. If it works, yes. If it doesn't, no. Don't spend your money.
What did they say?
Fenugreek is also a supplement sometimes women will take postpartum or to help with milk supply and lots of things. So I think if it works for you, keep it on. Another thing, there are some fans that mist at you. And then one other thing is there is the Ember Wave. So y'all may have seen commercials for it or people in your feeds with this Ember Wave. It's a bracelet, and what's really cool about it is a little expensive. It retails for about $250 50, but it has a hot and cold setting. So essentially, if you're having a hot flash, you can tap it, and I actually I'm very lucky enough. I'm actually working on a research project with this company because it's commercially available right now, but we're looking at it specifically for hot flashes.
How is it spelled?
Ember, EMBR, and then Wave, just like a wave, WAVE.
I'm gonna contact them. That sounds amazing. Wait, tell me more about it.
Yes, so it has a cooling sensation. So you tap it, it sends a nice cooling sensation down your arm, and it also has a heating one. So for some women, like you just said, if you also feel like then afterwards you're freezing cold, and after the hot flash, you can tap the hot sensation, and it'll warm you back up.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I have a million more questions. We're almost at 40 minutes, so I'm gonna. Yeah. So let me see if I can answer anything else here. Family history of ovarian cancer. Can they do hormone therapy?
You know what that's a great question. I usually recommend that for my patients who may have had a strong family history, sometimes what I usually do is I'll have them do some genetic testing, genetic screening. And sometimes it's just not even that detailed, like checking your blood for every single thing. But if you sit down with someone who's really good at genetics or a geneticist, they'll be able to tell you what your risk is. And actually, then it can really help us decide if you can still be a candidate for hormone therapy. So I've had patients who have a family history of breast cancer or ovarian cancer. Their lives were really, really terrible. We did genetic screening. They ended up having very low risk, and they ended up taking hormone therapy and are doing fantastic. So it's definitely doesn't mean it's not an absolute no. And at the end of the day, it's always an individual decision. I also have patients who are at high risk, and they say, screw it. I know if I get breast cancer, I'm going to take my breast off, and I am miserable, and I don't want to spend one more day like this. And they'll end up taking hormone therapy, whereas their neighbor might say, no way, I would never want to put myself at risk. And both answers to me are fine. There's not one size that fits all.
Okay, so obviously you want to go to your gynecologist, you want to talk about all this, but tell me about, I know you have a special certification that's special for, you have extra training in menopause, because I read, and I don't know if this is true, that gynecologists, they only get or OBGYNs only get 1 hour training on menopause, and I think it can't be true. Is that really true? It's just like, Sam, it's just like when we opened up this conversation, one of the big reasons that I really feel women suffer so much is because their doctors don't have good education. And it varies, right? Not all residents or training doctors have the same type of education, but unfortunately what kind of makes the most money is delivering babies and doing surgery. And so, again, for a plethora of medical, political, and social reasons, menopause kind of just gets swept under the rug. So yes, knowledge by your own gynecologist or your internist can vary. So I am NAM certified. That's the North American Menopause Society. And I highly recommend start with your own doctor. If your own doctor seems kind of clueless, then go to menopause.org. You can search by zip code, and there you can see if there's a NAMS doctor in your area. And that's someone who is probably carries a similar philosophy to me, which is that hormone therapy is much safer and effective than previously thought, and so you can search by your zip code. Also, if you on my Instagram page, I made this whole online course, of which I also chopped it up into mini courses. So if it's just sleep or if it's just sexual health, I have teeny mini courses that are like 40-something bucks. And then I have the complete guide to menopause. And so, I did that because... Are you able to type into your live? Are you able, maybe afterwards we can, I don't know, because maybe afterwards we can get your website so people can, do you have a YouTube too? Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do, but I don't have very many subscribers.
I went to your website though, and you have a ton of videos there. Yes. So I would recommend going there and starting, and then you have longer, shorter courses that people can take, right?
Yes, I do. And I also have a podcast, so that's also in my Instagram bio, and all of that is free, so you can listen to. I've got some great episodes, Menopause 101, Perimenopause, What the Hell, 10 minutes of hormone therapy. So this is a ton of information, even just in a 45-minute Instagram Live.
I know.
That, and I always tell my patients, it took me years, as a physician to learn all of this. So if you grasp anything that kind of catched your ear, you're interested, you can check out my podcast, or you can also check out any of my online courses, or see a NAMS doctor, just by going to menopause.org. And, maybe we do another one of these because,
I know we have too many questions. I don't know if you would ever in the future be interested. Do you ever do consults with patients? Do you ever, if somebody contacted you or DM'd you, is that something that's in your area or?
So yes and no. So I work at an academic hospital in Boston. I work at Brigham and Women's. So what I realized is to actually see and treat patients, I really need to see you in the office, but just once. And then I can do what's called telemedicine through my hospital. So unfortunately, that does mean if you do want to see me, you probably have to come out to Boston. But then I can also incorporate telemedicine into that. So I can't do consults individually. I can only really spread education, which is what I've been trying to do.
That's fine. No, it's great because I was just, on the menopause.org, I actually put in San Francisco and only four doctors come. I mean, and this is San Francisco. I was kind of shocked.
I know.
And I'm like, four? This huge metropolitan city. So I'm glad. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you have the website, and then people could get information because honestly, people don't know anything about it. They really don't, and they are struggling and suffering, not sleeping, and they don't know what's going on. Some of them think they're just depressed or they're having a breakdown. They honestly don't know. So I try to talk about it with even my neighbors who are all my friends. They were like, we don't know anything about menopause. And they're 14 and they know nothing about menopause.
I know.
What you're doing is so appreciated, and I'm going to keep on sharing you. And hopefully, I think, because I've never done a live, but I think I can save this, and I'm thinking maybe I can put it on YouTube.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Yeah, because Instagram doesn't let you do these super long videos, right? IGTV only allows you to do 10-minute sections until you have over 100,000 followers, I think. Yes. So I'm going to wrap us up because we still have people here. That's amazing. I just want to say thank you again so much. I will, you guys, all of Dr. How do you like to be called?
You can call me Heather is fine.
Okay. Well, I'm going to call you Dr. Heather Hirsch because you worked so hard to get to this position. I want to give you that name, that title because you worked really hard. But you guys, thank you guys all so much for joining. I see so many people here, and I probably didn't even get to answer any questions because this is my first time. But I'm going to go ahead and put all your links for all your courses online, Dr. Heather Hirsch.
Yeah,
and that's it for us. Oh, you guys, it's Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's. I know, happy Valentine's. Have fun. And maybe we can do another one, and I'll let you know if I'm able to put this up on YouTube, and I'll let all of you guys know. And I think that is it. Any last things that you want to say before we leave?
Yes, thanks for having me on your very first Instagram. I think you're a natural at Instagram Live. You should keep doing them.
I'm like,
I'm so excited that we got to meet up, and I'm so excited that I got to be able to chat and spread any little bits of knowledge and evidence-based medicine to your followers. So thanks for letting me be on. I really, it's really crazy. There's so many people that really say, this little platform changed people's lives, and this is just kind of evidence of that. So.
It's huge. It absolutely, Instagram is amazing. Absolutely. So thank you again. And you guys, happy Valentine's Day. We'll see you really soon.